Our first guest is Julie Chase, who formed her communications company in 1997 and works with the real estate industry on major projects. I welcome you.
Thank you.
I was intrigued because we've done many programs about all this boom in real estate developing, and certainly all the battles that have been generated by it. And a lot of those battles occur in the media. They're fought out in the media, and that's exactly where you come in, isn't it?
It is. I think there's many ways for developments to be more successful or to go along more smoothly, and everyone knows San Francisco is kind of a tough town for development. I think that's acknowledged pretty much nationwide with other developers that I talk to. But the issue can be that if a politician is not in favor of a development, he may make offhanded remarks or very planted remarks to the media, and it might be picked up that way and put into the papers before a developer has a chance to put in their version, so to speak, of why they want this development or why it would be good for a community. So we have to kind of watch out for that. I can be called in because something is put into the paper that starts to foment negative community interest. So we want to come in then and kind of say, well, wait a minute, you may or may not have the right facts, and so let's talk about what really is there and how this could benefit the community. With my residential developers, typically it is because San Francisco needs housing. So, why would this come off as a negative?
But it does. Now, you've been involved with one of the big projects in Rincon Hill. Mm-hmm. I think it's One Rincon Hill?
One Rincon Hill.
Yeah. And did that have this phenomena where, in a way, the framing of what that project was going to be was inaccurate? Either a politician did that or opposition group did that. Did you start off, in other words, with a negative image of that project, or did you have pretty much a clean slate where you could frame that project?
Yeah, I think that's actually a good example of a project where really for the most part we, as we like to say, flew under the radar screen for a good portion of the time when you were getting the entitlements and everything was being put into place. To make it actually happen. It was actually more when we were just getting some of the final approvals that we got caught up a bit. So let's go back to when it used to be the B of A clock tower, or before that the 76 tower. Many people might not want that city icon to go down, and yet that was a lot of unused space. Mm-hmm. Not the highest and best use of One Rincon Hill, which, because the freeway went down, you could now have an area where you could have beautiful housing and beautiful views and make use of this and bring in more of a neighborhood, which will then create more pedestrian-friendly environment and more retail and restaurant, et cetera. So we were able to, or the developer was able to, take down the clock very quietly, as a matter of fact. No one even knew it went down.
How do you think that happened? Why do you think how could that go by without a public uproar? There's a public uproar for the most minor landmark. Yeah. How did that happen, you think, from just a professional point of view? Why did it not become an issue?
I actually wasn't involved at that time, so I can't say with specificity, but I think it was one of those situations where there would be the opportunity for the developer and his team to go to City Hall and talk to those in the know and who can make the decisions, and just recognize that, was this the most fruitful use of this part of the city which could be developed? And someone like a Dean Macris is very fond of good urban plan. Mm-hmm. So if this enhances the design, then it's not going to be a real problem.
By that time, Bank of America had also been purchased by Nationwide, and they had moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. Right. But I'm sure there'd be one of the large corporations would be willing to have taken that tower and done the promotion on it. But anyway, what you're saying is that project then was under the radar until the very end, and then right. Supervisor Daley was waiting for it because it's in his district. Mm-hmm. And now it becomes, now it's demonized somewhat. Is that when you...
Well, it wasn't really demonized so much as, yes, he did insist on a number of contributions back to the city to make this work. If you're going to come in here and have this big of a property, well, then it's got to work for the city. And of course, we always have a percentage that's got to be for affordable. And then what are you going to do for the community? And in our...
Arts.
Right, exactly, all of that. And so it was a big price tag to make that happen. We do not have the affordable on-site, which is one way to go about it, or you can do off-site, or you can just give the money that would go towards the trade-off to affordable.
Affordable housing fund.
Right, which is what we did do. And, you know, from there on in, it actually was working very smoothly. What ended up happening in the papers, though, is that as we're waiting for the final approvals for the planning, was that there was a question about the type of engineering we have, which was above and beyond a national standard. And because at the time the reporter who was covering it did not understand what was going on, where we had to go and get a special peer review panel to just judge this thing, again, only because it was better than average.
This had to do with the seismic strengthening of the building, or how would it perform in a major earthquake?
Not well. That's what you read in the paper, and that's what you think it's about seismic. But it's actually about just the pure structure of it. What does it mean? It may not be about seismic because we're in an earthquake-prone environment, but it might just be, you know, how does this stand up? And it's better than average.
I see. But in other words, there you are. There you have a story or a viewpoint that you had to counter, because it got out that way.
Right.
And now you're working on other projects, but in general, would the developer prefer to be stealth like that project and only have to deal with the press and the negative impact of possible press at the end of the project, or would they like to start even at the very beginning, day one, and formulate a public view of that project to avoid the problem later on?
Well, I think the easy answer is you'd like to be stealth just to get through it and then have your, you know, gorgeous looking property, which, you know, this example will be. By the same token, if the sooner you can get in and talk to your community and really relate to them, I mean, that's a part of what we do as far as the outreach, to make sure that the community understands what's going to go on. And if something has to be taken down, like when we took down Town and Country down in San Jose for Santana Row to go up, that was a shopping center that was beloved to the community. And we need to let the community know, sorry that this, you know, ratty old teddy bear is going away, but you're going to get a beautiful new doll.
Now, did that happen when you were in the planning stage, or like an hour before the bulldozers came to tear down Town and Country?
Oh no, this is months and years of preparation.
In other words, that was really proactive.
Yeah.
You went out there and basically built consensus and avoided that.
We built political consensus. We got the mayor there. We got the local townspeople. We got the community, and then we made a party out of the demolition.
Okay, coming back to San Francisco. Although the cities have this a very strong urban environmental active movement, active participants. Here, we have a lot of controversial projects now, many of them now caused by Rincon 1, because now there's pressure on even Supervisor Daley to, for example, make sure that the affordable housing component isn't off-site, which has always been very useful to developers, but he's under tremendous pressure from the community that the affordable housing be right in that building that's going to be built. So how do you see, since you're in contact with developers, how are they changing their strategy and being more proactive and saying, we've got to get out there with the story and explain our story and not be reactive and wait for the board or a supervisor or some community activist to frame it incorrectly?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to build your constituency from the beginning, and that means in City Hall as well as in the community and in the immediate livable community as well as the other parts of the development community, because everyone has a voice, everyone talks. This is a great dishy town, and the more you can have the groundswell of understanding that it's a very positive, it'll have positive impact. You know, in a situation like One Rincon having affordable on-site, it is a very dense area, so how do you really manage the different types of property? And you're talking about parking, and you're talking about traffic, and you're talking about supporting the other existing or to be existing members of the community, which is again your retail and your restaurant. Has to be very thoughtful.
If I'm not mistaken, there's not a lot of residential neighbors around that project. But when you get to a situation where you have a site that is surrounded by an established community, is it your job, and do you get involved with actually talking individually to homeowners or
Yeah, you have the town hall meetings, you bring them out, you
do
newsletters, absolutely, you send out emails, you create little events, come by, you know, any series of events to come over and understand what's going to be there, show the renderings, and then you prepare for the kind of Pardon Our Dust campaign. In the case of One Rincon, you will have 700 new units there, but the Metropolitan is right across the street, and that's also a large project.
True.
We're going to have the other buildings, you know, what, 10,000 units over the next 5 years. So what's the immediate area becomes the question there. So we have to get to everyone.
So, and then developers that will be coming in later on, they'll have to deal with your clients who are now established members of the neighborhood, and they'll probably have to be consulted because they have such a powerful impact on what's going to be built next door to them.
Right.
I want to go to another area here. I remember public relations as a field that was noted for blocking out women in the business, and also developing and developers. Two great industries where men are men, and they have a place for women. And here you're operating in both these industries. Do you find that that is now a thing of the past, that women can stand up and make their case and be a totally effective part of a team that's doing a project like that?
Oh, I think so. I think most of my meetings, I'm the only woman there still. I mean,
Yes.
and that's probably in my career, I've seen a little bit of a rise and fall. There was a time when there were more women in the room. There seems to be less now, but that's at different levels also. But I don't think that there's any prejudice against women. I don't think there's any unevenness in the playing field. I've never felt any of that. I think we have equal voices if we want them. It's how you conduct yourself and how smart you are or how savvy you are to getting the job done.
And it's happening in San Francisco. There's many public relations firms owned by women and are very effective. I remember that because I'm in the real estate industry, and I do know that industry,
Right.
without any question and in all its aspects, had a problem with seeing women as equal partners.
Well, I think in the Bay Area
and performance, especially
Right.
in terms of performance.
But I think the lion's share of the female-owned businesses in the PR area probably got the more business or more notoriety or more credibility through technology, because there was a lot in that area. So whether it trickled over to real estate, there weren't that many people who really focused on real estate or business to business. So maybe being that unique, as I am in my area, might even be a benefit. But you
Right.
also kind of have to walk the walk and talk the talk.
Sure, you
so.
do. It's both of them are tough industries, especially the developing industry. Now you're now branching out to Washington D.C. Is that because you're going to get more involved in government relations, or are you going to get more involved with what you do here in San Francisco? That is the media relations and public or community consensus building and so on.
I think it's both. I think it's great to have access to Capitol Hill, and when you're back there, you can just, make some relationships and some ties that you couldn't as easily, obviously being here. And I do intend to do that for some of my clients, both on the real estate side and the healthcare side. I think the other answer is, Washington, D.C. is a perfect example, as well as New York, are still thriving, if not growing still,
Yes, they
real
are.
estate markets. And so I do have existing clients who are doing projects there, and I want to get there before them to be able to solve their needs.
They have the same problem the problems you solve, that is they have to deal with a media that is they're not biased, obviously, because the city is booming, so they appreciate developments, but do they have the same kind of controls and minefields that developers here have with city council or
Oh, absolutely.
public interest groups?
And I think that's part of it. It's not necessarily, we talk about how maybe a politician can affect what the media is putting in there, but we have to recognize that there's different groups that affect how the whole story comes out. So part of it is how respectful is the politician being towards the truth when they talk to the media, and how respectful is the media to being a good, honest journalist? Are they slipshod and just throw it in there because it's kind of
It's a
some
good
pure
story. How about
interest?
that?
Yeah, and they don't really vet their story, and they don't ask all the right people. I can give you examples where I've seen the media who clearly talk to a variety of people and have balanced journalism.
And
go
that's the way it
figure.
should be done.
It's the way it should be done, but there's others that aren't, and I do respect the reporters that I talk to who will sit down and allow me to educate them to the issues.
Well, we appreciate you keeping the local media honest, especially with so many controversial projects coming online. Julie Chase, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And stay with us. We'll be right back.